So now that you're in quilting yoga position, let's start with quilting yoga for lines. So what I'd like you to do first is just rock your weight back and forth on your hips like this. So you're going to just shift your weight from foot to foot. And as you do this, just let your arms glide from one side to the other like this. Okay. Now, if you have ever rocked a fussy baby, you're going to recognize this motion. It's the fussy baby rock. And that gentle rhythmic motion, that glide from side to side, is just what you need to quilt smoothly with a nice flowing line. Okay. But right now, more specifically, that line is going straight back and forth, side to side, and that's going to give you horizontal lines in your quilting. Now let's move on to vertical lines for quilting. So for this one, we're going to just stay centered, and we're going to go forward and back, and forward and back. And even though we're not rocking on our hips, we're going to keep that same rhythm that we had in the fussy baby rock. Now this motion is already very familiar to you as well, because we've all spent thousands of hours at our sewing machines with the feed dogs running our fabric through the machine, and this is going to be the same speed and the same motion that you would use if you were quilting with the feed dogs up. So just kind of key into that motion and go, hey body, I already know how fast and how straight to move for this. That's something our bodies already know how to do. So we've got horizontal and we've got vertical. Now let's talk about diagonal motions. For this one, we're going to start with a great big star. So put your hands up to your shoulder, and using the same gliding motion and rhythm that we've been doing so far, we're going to go shoulder, shoulder, hip, head, hip, shoulder. So we just made a great big star right across our bodies. And we're going to do this one more time, and as we do, we're going to go glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop. And the reason for that stop is very important. If you want a sharp point between your two lines, you need to stop long enough for your sewing machine to take 2 extra stitches to anchor that point. So we've got our rhythm now. We've got glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop. And now let's do it horizontally the way we would do it in the sewing machine. We're going to do it once big, and then let's do it once small with our lines just about the size of our finger. So here we go. Glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop. And now we're going to do it small. Glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop, glide and stop. Now the last thing we're going to do is just take those diagonal lines and go randomly in any direction, keeping our lines about the length of our finger, and keep the same glide and stop rhythm. So here we go. Glide and stop, 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 glide and stop. Now, if you go and look at the tracing sheet for straight lines, you're going to see a pattern on there called straight line stippling. That's what we just did here. Now take that same motion, that same glide and stop rhythm that we just did, and go to your tracing sheet and trace the straight line stippling pattern at the same rhythm with your tracing tool on your tracing sheet.